Friends, hello. How are you? We are in the middle of a bit of a snowstorm here. Not sure where you're tuning in from, but just for fun, if it's warmer climate, why don't you go ahead and just put in the comments, brag away with a little sunshine emoji, and tell us all where you're dialing in from. Hope you're all doing well. It's a short week if you are working within the system in K-12 or higher ed, and some of you actually have fall breaks. And yeah, I'm drooling because I'm envious. Tis the season, isn't it? The holiday season is definitely upon us, and I don't know if you're feeling. Had a conversation with Miss Becky the other day about just wow. Um, this is a very busy time of the year, and how do we get all the to-dos to done and keep a smile on our faces while we're entertaining each and all, right? At the moment, we've got family staying with us, and I'll be honest with you, I like my space. I actually like my space, and I'm not much into small talk. And if you're a small talker, I have nothing against you. I just, if we're going to talk, we're going to talk about something that's a little further out there, a little deeper in the water. Okay. But if you want to talk about what the temperature is right now, or how the Vikings are losing so poorly, yeah, I'll entertain you for a hot minute and then I'm going to disappear. I'm just literally going. So, no small talk here today. I need to tell you something that might actually make you feel a little bit exposed. It might also explain why your talented cabinet feels a little more like just competing kingdoms than a unified team. Isn't that so true? I've got a new book coming out in January that just pushes against the problem. The problem is you've got talented leaders. You couldn't find better leaders within your system, but you have underperforming teams. And that's just the consistent pattern that we see everywhere. So I wanted to dial that in and not make it subjective, but to make it objective and put together an operating system that kind of calls it up, not calls it out. We're definitely going to define the problem, but it calls it up. And I'm going to save that for another time to talk about TQ, the team advantage. But I wanted to just share a little bit about it was last week, I think it was Thursday, University and President, I'll call him Marcus. We had a conversation reviewing performance data that just made no sense. His leadership team, he's got 7 VPs, I think 140 years of experience if you just pooled them all together. Top brass, right? Should be just producing exceptional results. Instead, uh, mediocre. Yeah, I'll call it average because average is easier to spell than mediocre. Those outcomes, right? High tension, constant territorial battles between academic divisions and student affairs divisions and operations divisions. Yeah, I don't know if you can relate, but here's what Marcus told me that kind of got my attention. He said, Joe, I've got the smartest people. I think the smartest people in higher ed right now sitting at my table, but somehow we can't think together when it matters most. If that resonates with you right now, if you've ever wondered why your brilliant team just produces the mediocre or average results, I want you to know something. You're not failing. You are not failing. You're fighting against a couple thousand years of cultural programming that's still running in the background of every leadership organization on the planet, right? Uh, you're allowed to feel just exhausted from protecting certainty, right? That you don't always feel. Every exceptional leader I know has experienced that gap, right, between your confidence that they perform and the uncertainty. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. That internal voice, right? Because here's what's actually at stake, right? While you're managing your leadership image, those students, right? You look out the window right now. Yeah, their futures depend on you, boss, right? And The teams that can't think together under pressure, yeah, it's costing you. It's costing you more than you know, right? In terms of just overall capacity, exhaustion, alignment, and it could be generational impact, right? If we don't get this thing right. Let me share some research it's gonna land hard. Okay, so buckle up. We survey superintendents and college presidents on every semester. We've got a new report that's actually coming out right after the holidays. Uh, we found this latest research, I should say. If I've gone to finishing school, it's research. 73% of leaders privately admit that they're making it up as they go. We had more sophisticated answers than that, but I put it into street lingo that we can all understand. Kind of making it up as we go, 73%. But 94% project absolute certainty in public. Mhm. In board meetings, in cabinet sessions, all staff addresses. That's a 20 plus point, right, gap. That's not strategic. It's more theater than leadership. But here's the number. I think the number that should just shake every leader watching right now. Teams marked by what I would call certainty performance. We learned about this in during COVID, right? We kind of stood resolutely and none of us really understood what the flip was going on. Those that kind of run within that channel consistently underperform their actual talent by 30 to 40%. Uh, Let me say that again, a dip by 30 to 40% if you are running in this lane of clarity performance, right? You need to look confident, literally making your team dumber, okay? More mediocre. Right. So 6 months ago, I watched a superintendent and cabinet team, critical budget decisions, brilliant people, right? All standing, resolute and attent, deep expertise. But I noticed something devastating. Nobody was actually listening. They were all positioning. Yeah, they're protecting their territory, performing expert. They're like gang street fighters, just doing their thing. Okay, protecting their turf. The assistant superintendent for curriculum couldn't concede to that finance had some valid points because agreement felt like it was professional surrender. I think for her, and the CAO couldn't admit confusion because uncertainty felt like maybe career suicide. Like, I cannot be that vulnerable. I've seen this pattern across districts. I've seen the pattern across universities I work with, from small rural communities to really flagship R1 universities, right? We promote people based upon their ability to project confidence. That's the truth, isn't it? Then wonder why they burn out when complexity exceeds their capacity to fake that level of certainty. Yeah. Yeah. It's bewildering, isn't it? Here's what really, really, really hit me. When leaders operate from what I call just that glory emptiness, they desperately need to prove they matter through performance. It cascades, right? It creates self-preservation, and that stuff stinketh. It does. You've all been in the midst of self-preservation, and that's, you just know when you're there. Teacher morale, faculty morale drops, innovation dies. Everybody's just playing the game to get what they need. Student outcomes are stagnating because when adults can't be honest really about what they don't know, the entire system, it just suffers and it becomes just a cultural manifestation, right? How many of you right now have defended a position in a meeting, not because you believed in it, but because changing your mind would have made you look puny? I'll wait, because I think there's some honest ones out there. Yeah. How many of you have watched your talented people, talented colleagues just fight over territory instead of collaborating for your mission, right? It's more that I am right than the mission is amplified. How many go home exhausted from just managing your leadership image all day long? The pattern is flipping universal, folks. We're trying to solve complex problems with just just performance certainty instead of collective intelligence. Yeah. So what I discovered really from lots of deep study of breakthrough teams, because I find the standards and go, I want to look under that hood and figure out how that joint is running. That glory emptiness paradox and that invisible force destroying that team's collective intelligence is a real thing. Okay. So another thing that might make you want to go, um, ancient Greco-Roman culture, that term humility, yeah, it wasn't a virtue. It was an insult. The word literally meant a disposition of a slave. That entire civilizations built um, or just cast aside while they were building their leadership dominance or projecting their dominance. Humility, anything that looked like humility was just leading to all things performance death, right? Career death. Then this Christianity thing, flip the entire script. Suddenly, washing feet became the leadership model, right? And it kind of dripped into Western culture. That last shall be first. It became revolutionary in terms of philosophy. And within a few centuries, Western culture's entire conception, right, of leadership shifted from power and control and power over others to more purpose and connection and service to others. Okay. I'm not very religious, but that's a thing. That was a real shift. Okay. And where I think it became really challenging is in the early 80s. The self-esteem movement launched, I think, primarily in the West Coast. We'll just say California. And by the 2000s, we'd completely regressed. Okay, leadership development became more about just your executive presence, your personal branding, you projecting your certainty. And we reverse engineered our way back into ancient Rome, if you will, right? Except now leaders wear Patagonia instead of toga. Yeah, there we go. Um, Unpaid advertisement, Patagonia. Come on. Come on. You know where to find me. Here's what's happening in your brain when you lead from that glory emptiness. Yeah, brain science, your amygdala, right? Your amygdala, your threat detection center treats every challenge to your position as a personal attack. Your prefrontal cortex, your center for complex problem solving, it literally shuts down and you can't access your highest leadership capacity when you're defending your image. Dr. Amy Edmondson, we've talked about her numerous times on the live here. Her research at Harvard reveals that teams with psychological safety, where leaders can admit uncertainty, they perform way more, way better, like 70+% better on complex problem solving. But only 31% of educational leadership teams will create that kind of environment. We've proven that through our own internal research. Think about that. We try to educate children for uncertain futures using teams that can't admit uncertainty. Yeah. This explains everything I've been seeing in struggling districts. It wasn't about individual incompetence. These were exceptional educators. It was about the absence of what I call humility intelligence, that ability to lead from self forgetfulness instead of, I just call it self consciousness, right? Self forgetfulness. Okay. When teams lack humility, side note, I was just looking, there's actually a school district called the Humble School District, right? And I just, the Humble board president sent out a welcome message or a happy holiday. I about fell out of my seat. That was kind of, yeah, I'm the Humble school superintendent. I'm the Humble high school principal. Yeah. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Again, I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, when teams lack that humble, it does show up. The same territorial battles that recurring every semester. You've got talented people just feeling like they're fighting for recognition instead of collaborating on the solutions, trying to close gaps, but decision making that sounds strategic, but it just fails in implementation. Right? Leaders, and lots of them are just carrying around impossible weights, and you can hear them coming because they're huffing and puffing. That weight should actually be shared, right? And innovation is dying because people protect territory. And when we're protecting, we can't be creative. It's just impossible because we protect from fear, right? We don't, you can't be creative when you're filled with fear and you're just putting up no trespassing signs, right? Instead of building those ideas and just really sharing that with others. I don't know if this pattern lands with you, but it probably sounds painfully familiar. If you're recognizing your own team dynamics, just drop a comment below this. Again, this is a live, so pop the comment in there. I would love to just see what people are thinking and saying. Right? If this hits home, and you want to explore what humility intelligence could look like within your context, I do offer complimentary strategic sessions every week. So drop that in there, and I'll come find you. We'll put a link also in the follow-up description. So, yeah, lots of examples, lots of examples. I bump into them all the time. Recently, like within the last month, university president was completely revolutionized, beginning to just tip her team by addressing what nobody else would name. And then the results will change how you think really about leadership forever. I'm not going to use her name. President Marsha, we'll call her Marsha. She came into a system and inherited a cabinet of 7 VPs with a combined IQ that could probably cure all the diseases on the planet. Really sharp folks, combined ability to work as a uniform team, roughly equivalent to committee deciding on pizza toppings, right, while addressing systemic inequities in pizza distribution, perhaps. Okay, I digress. But her first 90 days, she tried everything: strategic planning sessions. Her team was stuck. Vision alignment workshops, doubling down on her one-on-ones, team building exercises. They even did an escape room, right? Everyone escaped all right. Nobody's relationship or the alignment certainly just did not improve. Then Marcia did something radical. She stopped trying to fix behavior, right, and started addressing orientation. For some of you that have been on the other end of, you feel like your boss is always trying to manipulate your behavior, instead of looking at results, you might appreciate this. She actually asked each VP very privately in her one-on-one sessions, hey, when you think about your work here, what are you most afraid of? Right? That's what I said. Who speaks who speaks in that kind of language? What are you most afraid of? Right? That's not appreciative language. Um, but her answers, the answers that she received, they were devastatingly honest. The people think I'm not adding value to the institution, or that I'll be exposed for not knowing enough, and I've got 2 PhDs, right? Or my successor will do it better when people will realize that I really wasn't that great. True stuff, right? All you might imagine, right? That I'll be forgotten when my taillights burn out of the lot for the last time. Glory, emptiness, all of them, including Marcia, right? The research is pretty clear. It aligns tightly to some of that honest feedback. When leaders model vulnerability about their own glory emptiness, it creates what psychological experts call relational safety. Right? It's just the foundation for collective intelligence. Now, if you're a Brene Brown fan, I think I've got every single one of her marvelous projects. I don't even call them books; they are projects, right? Her research shows that teams practicing structured vulnerability, they perform 2.3 to 2.5 times better in the innovation metrics, right? That mechanism is simple. When leaders replace performance with honesty, breakthrough finally becomes not impossible, but inevitable. Honestly, here's what humility architecture protocol that transformed Marcia's team. Here's how it happened. Week one, just that reorientation question that she asked. Um, she said, "What if your professional reputation didn't matter at all?" What? Do you know where you are? You are in the hallowed halls since 18 whatever. This place has been established on pride and ego and learned people. And yeah, she said, what if you were already fully known, fully valued, fully secure? Not because of your accomplishments or your all the stuff on the wall, but because of who you are. Yeah, how would you lead differently? How would you do different things? Yeah, week two, the honest admission. Her VP of finance said, I'd probably ask for more help. Yeah, I'd admit when I don't know something instead of pretending I do. Her CAO, I said I'd honestly just stop fighting for my ideas and start building on other people's ideas. All of this stuff, not mind blowing, but it was kind of eye popping for her to actually hear this in real time. Then, towards the end of the month, just the new operating system, they committed to operating from mission serving instead of glory seeking. They pulled it out. They simplified it because they had a mission that read, yeah, yeah. What is that Australian instrument that you have to play by both breathing out and breathing in at the same time? Yeah, that mission statement read as a full orchestration of probably takes 5 minutes to read the whole. So they shortened the thing. They made it really heavy and just pronounced in terms of just the potency of what it is that they were looking for. Um, yeah, and they made sure that everything they did was mission serving instead of glory seeking. Not because they'd achieved perfect self actualization. Ah, I long for the day, right? But because they were practicing really a different foundation altogether. And about 6 months later, same people, same challenges, different operating system. Cabinet meetings became shorter. People just started to get home on time. About 40% shorter meetings. People stopped positioning. You didn't have all that interplay, right? The decision velocity increased by 3x. And admittedly, we also did some just recalibrating of the decision making process, but that helped, totally helped. um, Voluntary turnover dropped to zero. They were Prior to that, they were losing about one VP every single year annually, right? And student outcomes and retention became real numbers that they were more proud of than trying to hide. Marcia actually told me humility, it's not something you achieve, right? It's what happens when you stop needing achievement to prove that you matter. That shift, it absolutely changed everything for them. And it wasn't a soft shift. That was some hard work that team did together. But here's the most powerful part is when leaders model humility, it actually cascades. It becomes part of your coefficient effect across your entire organization. That's a fancy word for culture, right? Faculty just began to collaborate instead of competing. Students saw adults working together authentically. The entire culture shifted from performance to truth, which actually leveled up performance. So if you don't intentionally build humility intelligence into your system, what inevitably will happen, your talented high capacity teams will continue fighting for recognition while your average, yeah, compound. Those average results, you're just going to see this level line. Yeah, you'll keep losing your best people. They'll slip out the back door, not because you're a bad leader, but because they're exhausted, boss, just from the whole theater, right? That theater performance. The personal cost, it's always crushing. You'll continue carrying impossible weights alone. You'll watch talented people protect their territory instead of actually solving problems. And the demand, the demands are just increasing beyond what we could even imagine right now. So we can't afford this. You're going to lie awake wondering why your brilliant team can't. I'm paying them really well, and we went a full year to find that person, but they can't work together when it matters most. Yeah, we're losing sleep, and we're also losing students. But here's what really matters: when leaders operate from glory emptiness, students pay the ultimate price. If we can just be missional for a minute, every day you spend working on, you know, performing instead of collaborating is another day that real problems just go unsolved, in classrooms across your entire system. So imagine leading a team. Just imagine where your people care more about right answers than being right. Yeah. Picture your cabinet meetings where just real uncertainty gets shared and solved instead of hidden and performed. That performative thing is what's just killing all of us. Envision just making complex decisions with confidence because your team thinks together under pressure. That's when you're getting the best out of your people, right? Consider budget discussions. They're coming up, right? When people build on each other's ideas instead of defending their territory, that is just so that's just so yesterday. I don't know what the kids would say, but it is so yesterday. Imagine crisis response where collective intelligence creates solutions no individual could see, right? Or envision alone. Picture retention conversations where people feel valued for truth telling and not just their own individual performance. So the question isn't, how do I get my team to perform better? I get that all the time. Okay. The question is actually, how do I create an environment where mission serving replaces glory seeking? Mission over personal glory. Yeah, you don't owe your past leadership style an explanation. I don't either. Okay, I don't live there anymore. I'm still kind of atoning for some of my sins, but none of us got it right. But I think we can get it more right. You owe your future impact the kind of humility that makes breakthrough results inevitable. So, right now, before the stream ends, and we're going to come in for a landing real shortly, I want you to do something that might change your cabinet meeting immediately. Take out your phone and just draft in your notes agenda items for your next leadership meeting, right? The thing that we do not talk about. Yeah, that's your agenda. How much energy do we spend managing our reputation versus serving our mission? Yeah, ask that question in your next cabinet meeting and phrase it. You can put a header on it. The thing we never talk about. That might get people showing up on time. Or maybe ducking out altogether. How much energy do we spend managing our reputation versus serving our mission? And just allow the conversation. You might need to provoke it a little bit, right? Because you're going to have people looking at their toes and checking to see if there's maybe a crisis email that they could answer, right? But then say this and stay in the lead, boss, because, boss, you are the thought leader of your organization. I think our team operates with more self-consciousness than self-forgetfulness. Yeah. I include myself. Always include yourself. That's just part of being humble, right? In that assessment. So what would have to be true for each of us to start thinking about our reputation and to really just start ironing that out and start thinking more about our contribution, less about our reputation and more about our contribution? Then shut up, right? And just let that silence do its work. That's a diagnostic in itself. But here's something a bit more comprehensive. And I'll share it with you. You can go to higherperformancegroup.com and you can pull it up in the group. We create leader lessons and leader guides every single week This week's is kind of spicy. It's talking about this topic, just the humility paradox. So if you go to higherperformancegroup.com, not soliciting anything, go scroll down to the group. You can join it for free, and you will find that leader lesson and the leader guide in there. So that might also help to just kind of catapult you into this discussion without all that nervous energy. So yeah, you do. You've got the choice right now. I love choice, isn't it? Isn't it great to live in a in a space in a time where you have choice, right? You can continue leading from glory emptiness and protecting certainty you don't feel while watching your talented people fight for recognition instead of collaborating for solutions. Or you can build that humility intelligence that just going to change your culture altogether and will transform your good teams into the extraordinary ones that we will talk about. We will positively gossip about on the show here. So here are 3 signals. I think if you're needing to pay attention, I would say urgently. Um, if your cabinet meetings feel more like territorial negotiations than problem solving sessions, yeah, you've got a humility issue. If your people are defending positions more than more forcefully than the data warrants, yeah, you've got a humility issue. If you suspect everyone's performing collaboration while practicing competition, if you can just smell that, right? Again, the smarter we get, the better excuses we come up with not collaborating and more competition. Yeah. So vet that out. If any of these resonate, you're not alone and you're definitely not stuck, right? So you can highperformancegroup.com, go to the group. You can look at the leader guide, the leader lesson this week. There's actually an audit in there that you might appreciate. And lots of good questions that are waiting. I think those are your choices. Good choices, I might say, might be some of the best choices that you make in the year ahead. I want to just thank you for joining me today. Remember, strong teams they're not built by strong leaders performing strength. Uh, that sounds kind of like upside down, doesn't it? They're actually built. Strong teams are actually built by leaders that practice humility. So, boss, stop performing and really start leading. Okay. I don't know, when is it? 2028 for president? You know who I want? You know who I want for president? Humble. That's who I want for president. I want humble for president. Yeah. Hey, your team is waiting. So why don't you all just go first? Go first. Peace, friends. Let me know if you need